Welcome to Hawaii, a name that instantly brings to mind golden beaches, sapphire blue waters, and the unshakable spirit of aloha. But beyond this picture-perfect paradise lies a darker, lesser-known story. A story of lost settlements and communities swallowed by the brutal forces of nature, or abandoned in the wake of economic collapse. Three powerful forces, scorching lava flows, the wrath of towering tsunamis, and the downfall of the sugar empire, have all left behind traces of ghost towns, now hidden among thick jungles and the vast Pacific. So now, we're taking you on a journey across the islands to uncover 15 towns whose stories are etched in silence. Buckle up, this is not the Hawaii you see on postcards. We begin on the Big Island, a place where Mount Kīlauea has not only shaped the land, but has also ended entire towns. Here, lava doesn't just flow, it erases. Kaimū was once a peaceful fishing village and a true coastal gem of Hawaii, home to one of the most stunning black sand beaches in the islands, a natural wonder born from earlier eruptions. But in 1990, everything changed in an instant. A relentless Pahoehoe lava flow from Kīlauea began creeping forward, slowly consuming house after house, swallowing palm trees, and eventually burying the entire village. It even extended the coastline several miles out into the ocean. Today, old Kaimū no longer exists. In its place is a hardened field of black lava, a vast geological monument. The landscape is eerily silent, with only the wind whispering through volcanic rock. Here, you can feel the weight of silence itself, a haunting reminder of how swiftly nature can wipe away human civilization. Just next to Kaimū, a similar fate befell the town of Kalapana. Much of this community was also buried under the same 1990 lava flow, leaving behind fractured roads that now lead to dead ends at solid walls of volcanic stone. But Kalapana's story holds a miracle, a glimpse of resilience in the face of disaster. One of the town's landmarks, the Star of the Sea painted church built in 1931, stood directly in the lava's path. In a heroic effort, locals managed to save the historic church by carefully relocating it 1.2 miles away from danger. Today, it still stands, safe and preserved, as a place of remembrance. Kalapana is a ghost town that breathes. Its original heart lies beneath the lava, but its spirit continues through the architectural wonder that was spared. Next is Kapoho, a tragic example of a town that faced disaster not once, but twice. The first blow came in 1960, when a Kīlauea eruption destroyed much of the area, but the resilient community rebuilt, only to be devastated again in 2018. That year, lava from Fissure 8 surged through the region, completely erasing Kapoho from the map. Before its final destruction, Kapoho was famous for its natural hot springs and the Kapoho tide pools, a beloved snorkeling spot known for vibrant marine life. After 2018, those waters were filled in and sealed by lava, which now stretches several hundred meters out into the sea. A once thriving ecosystem was replaced by a barren field of rock. Kapoho is a ghost town twice over, destroyed, rebuilt, and then utterly erased. Shifting to the historic Kona coast, we arrive at Kaʻūpūlehu, an ancient Hawaiian village with a story rooted deep in the island's past. This ghost town's origin dates back to the Huihu lava flow of 1801. At that time, Kaʻūpūlehu was a vital community for native Hawaiians, but the advancing lava forced its people to flee, never to return. Today, Kaʻūpūlehu lies hidden beneath hardened lava, now softened by time and covered in moss and vegetation. The village's existence is no longer visible to the untrained eye. It can only be confirmed through archaeological research. Foundations of homes and a few remaining petroglyphs still mark the area, offering a rare glimpse into how vulnerable early Hawaiian society was to volcanic power. If lava brings a hot and permanent end, the ocean, when enraged, offers little time to run. That's exactly what happened in Honuʻapo, once one of the busiest ports on the Big Island's Kaʻū coast. Its pier was a critical hub for sugar exports and a centerpiece of local life. But in 1946, a massive Pacific tsunami struck the area, destroying the dock and much of the port's infrastructure. Although there were attempts to rebuild, the damage proved too extensive and the port never fully recovered. Combined with the decline of the sugar industry, Honuʻapo was eventually abandoned. Today, broken concrete pilings stand quietly in the water, weathered and crumbling, a monument to the idea that sometimes the collapse of infrastructure can end a town just as decisively as a lava flow. But perhaps no ghost town story in Hawaii carries more heartbreak than Laupāhoehoe. In 1946, a devastating tsunami struck this narrow peninsula with overwhelming force. Dozens of lives were lost in an instant, including teachers and school children who were caught with nowhere to escape. The tragedy shattered the core of the community. Though the peninsula still exists today as a peaceful tsunami memorial park, the spirit of the original town is gone, replaced by solemn remembrance and quiet sorrow. You won't find a bustling village here, but instead, stone markers that tell a costly lesson. The sea, as beautiful as it is, demands respect and sometimes distance. Hidden within the vast boundaries of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park lies ʻāpua, another ancient coastal settlement lost to time. This village was completely destroyed in the wake of the devastating 1868 Hawaii earthquake and the tsunami that followed. Unlike towns that disappeared more recently, ʻāpua was quickly reclaimed by nature. Today, it stands as an incredibly remote historical site, accessible only by a long coastal hike through rugged volcanic terrain. There are no standing structures, only faint signs like scattered canoe remnants and low stone foundations hint at the community that once thrived here before the forces of nature erased it. ʻāpua is not just forgotten, it has been absorbed back into the landscape. Unlike most ghost towns marked by sudden destruction, Hoʻokena on the Kona coast faded slowly over time. This once busy settlement struggled through a series of hardships, including powerful earthquakes and storms, along with a damaging tsunami in 1951 that wrecked much of its shoreline structures. On top of that, changes in transportation routes made the area increasingly isolated, both economically and socially. One by one, residents moved away. Today, while Hoʻokena Beach remains a beautiful and well-loved spot, the heart of the original village is gone. The bustling streets are now quiet, overgrown with trees and shadows, leaving behind only the memory of a life once lived by the sea. Crossing the channel to Molokaʻi, we reach Hālawa Valley on the island's eastern side. Though not a town in the modern sense, this village is recognized as one of the oldest known settlements on Molokaʻi. However, its long history was brought to a halt by back-to-back tsunamis in 1946 and 1957, which devastated the valley. The disasters forced residents to either relocate to higher ground or leave the valley altogether. Though the scenery remains stunning, complete with dramatic waterfalls and lush greenery, the homes and structures that once lined the valley floor are gone. Today, Hālawa is held closely by native Hawaiian families with ancestral ties to the land, making it a sacred and nearly untouched place. It is no longer a village of people, but a resting place for history, where the ancestors seem to be the only full-time residents. Now, we shift from the fury of nature to a place shaped by human decisions, ones driven by disease, fear, and policy. Still on the island of Molokaʻi, Kalaupapa stands as one of Hawaii's most haunting ghost towns, but this one is not abandoned in the traditional sense. Perched on a remote peninsula beneath the world's tallest sea cliffs, Kalaupapa was established as a forced isolation colony for people with leprosy, Hansen's disease. Though the isolation law was officially repealed in 1969, the site remains a national historical park with strictly controlled access. To this day, a handful of elderly former patients continue to live here by choice. Life in Kalaupapa is quiet and regulated. Its remaining residents are legally protected and honored. The town is locked to outsiders, not to hide its past, but to preserve it. Kalaupapa is a living monument to human suffering, sacrifice, and the legacy of Saint Damien, who devoted his life to the people exiled here. At the far end of the same isolated peninsula lies Kalawao, the original leprosy settlement, and in many ways the harsher one. Conditions here were so bleak that eventually, Pastor Damien and the authorities relocated the community to Kalaupapa, which offered better shelter and access. Kalawao was abandoned in the early 1900s. Today, all that remains are the ghostly outlines of building foundations, surrounded by quiet grassy fields. A few historic churches still stand near the rocky shoreline, weathered but dignified. Kalawao is even quieter than Kalaupapa, a place where echoes of ancient suffering still linger, and the silence feels as heavy as the history beneath your feet. The stormy rage of nature is behind us now. What comes next is a slower, quieter kind of downfall. On the island of Lānaʻi lies Keomuku, a former sugar plantation town whose life was brief and uncertain. The Maunaloa Sugar Company operated here for only a few years before folding, possibly due to water shortages, or perhaps, as local legend claims, because of a cultural curse. The town was abandoned around 1901. Today, Keomuku is nearly swallowed by coastal vegetation. Crumbling stone walls and faint house foundations can still be spotted along the shoreline. The most striking remnant is the skeletal frame of a ruined church, which now stands in beautiful decay, a scene both romantic and melancholy. Keomuku is a powerful reminder that not all ghost towns are destroyed by lava or waves. Some simply vanish under the weight of economic failure and forgotten dreams. Even on the bustling island of Oʻahu, you can still find abandoned communities. Kawailoa was once a worker camp for the Waialua sugar mill, a lively, multicultural community made up of Filipino, Japanese, Portuguese, and other immigrant laborers who toiled in the sugarcane fields. But when the sugar mill shut down in the 1990s, the workers were forced to move, and the plantation housing was left behind. Today, much of the old land has been repurposed for wind farms and conservation areas, now dotted with massive wind turbines. Mixed with newer developments, the area stands in stark contrast to its quiet industrial past, highlighting the rapid transformation of Oʻahu's landscape and lifestyle. Returning once more to Molokaʻi, we find Maunaloa, one of Hawaii's most recent and strangely modern ghost towns. This was a functioning plantation town up until the late 2000s, when a major real estate company suddenly ceased operations. Shops, tourist facilities, and residential homes were abandoned almost overnight. The ghost town feeling in Maunaloa is intense because so many buildings still stand in good condition, giving the eerie impression that people just stepped out a moment ago. Empty sports fields, a shuttered movie theater, and silent streets now serve as somber monuments to a community abruptly erased by corporate economic decisions. And finally, we arrive at Hamakuapoko Plantation, a place that quietly represents the final chapter of Maui's sugar era. The story here is familiar, a community that gradually faded following the plantation's closure. The shutdown triggered school closures and a slow migration of residents, not caused by a dramatic event, but more like water wearing down stone over time. Today, only a few structural remnants remain, scattered across vast open land where the community once thrived. The space is soaked in silence, a quiet witness to the collapse of an industry that once defined modern Hawaii. We've traveled across frozen lava fields, along shorelines shaped by tsunamis, and through the remains of fallen industries. From the crumbling churches of Lānaʻi to the locked barracks of Molokaʻi, these 15 ghost towns offer a deeper, often hidden perspective of Hawaii. They remind us that nature is the ultimate force, and that economic history is always in motion. Though the towns may have vanished, their stories live on. In the end, tales of resilience and sacrifice and survival are woven into the land itself. This is the hidden Hawaii, an island paradise built atop foundations of lost stories.